Hi, my name is Mary Mudd, and I am a medical staff services professional, a certified provider credentialing specialist. But as a hobby, I pursue Roman history, and I have written a book, I, Livia, the Counterfeit Criminal, a biography of the much beloved third wife of Caesar Augustus, a woman who has been much maligned through the centuries because of a Roman tradition that represented her as a dynastic murderess. This tradition is false, and my book aspires to prove that. When I was a young girl, I was used to escape the vicissitudes of growing up in a very regimented household by fantasizing and reading about fairy tales. And as I grew older, that shifted into an interest first in Greek mythology, and then later in history. When I was 12, we moved to Texas, and I took a great interest in the history of the state, which is, of course, very, very rich. And then came the watershed year. In ninth grade, English, we read Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, and I got hooked on the Romans. As part of a high school reading assignment, I was required to read Robert Graves' I, Claudius, and which represents Livia as a dynastic criminal, and very convincingly so. But at the same time, my interest in Roman history was prompting me to read general histories of of the Roman Empire in itself, and also of the specific era in which Livia lived. And these historians, challenged that malignant tradition. So I began to think to myself, well, what's true and what isn't? So I decided to start to do research into it. First, I read everything in English that I could on about Livia and her period, and then read the original sources first in Latin. Then I learned Greek and read the Greek sources for her. And I began to see more and more that the malignant tradition is not really true. That every time one would pursue to lead to say, well, if she did this, then this happened, it would always, the logic would fall apart. I had a friend, Constance Head. She was a Roman Byzantine historian, and she had an academic appointment at Cullowhee College in Ashland, North Carolina. And we would meet at conferences, and we would talk about the historical profession. And of course, a lot of girl talk too. We'd be on the phone at midnight, and but anyway, in the 80s, when the BBC turned I, Claudius into a television series, and I was griping and grousing about the misrepresentations of Livia and how it was being spread throughout the popular television viewing world. Constance said to me, well, why don't you put your money where your mouth is and write her biography once and for all? It was like the notion had been in front of me like this for many, many years. I had dabbled in writing about Livia. I gave a paper at one conference on women in history, setting the record straight. But the notion of writing a full-fledged biography had never occurred to me until Constance suggested it. The book is dedicated to her memory. She passed away of hepatic cancer in 1985 at the age of 46. And I will be internally in her debt for that inspiration. Well, my interest in Livia and writing her biography has really been the work of a lifetime. I read Robert Graves' I, Claudius when I was 14, and at that time I became interested in the two traditions, the murderous tradition versus the tradition of the upright, loving wife. And I always wanted to always had the desire to set the record straight, as it were. However, I didn't really have the know-how for many, many years. How was I going to represent this? Well, it took many years of thought and eventually a doctorate in history to enable me to review the extant historical material and make judgments about it. Well, by the time I got my doctorate and I had a young family and I was working, so started to write a little bit on the side. And I would continue to write and continue, and eventually, it it just grew into a wonderful book. Well, I think it's wonderful, and not in the sense that I'm trying to brag about it, but it was just so gratifying to be able to set the record straight about this person who was not so badly misrepresented, and whose popular image is the wrong one. I feel like kind of a plagiarist because the I, Livia part is based on I, Claudius, the book that popularized her malignant tradition. And the counterfeit criminal, actually, I got it from the movie The Counterfeit Trader. Somebody who was supposed to be evil and is not. This is the cover for actually the 2005 edition, the first edition, and the cover image is actually reversed. She's supposed to be holding this cornucopia in her left hand. So in the 2011 edition that is about to be released, that has been corrected. My newest endeavor is entitled The Lion and the Scorpion. It is a work of historical fiction based upon the life of the Emperor Tiberius, Livia's son. It's derived from the astrological birth signs of the two primary characters. The Emperor Tiberius, Livia's son, is the Scorpio. He was born November 16th, 42 BC. And Tiberius historically had an intense interest in astrology, which is one of the reasons that it plays a very prominent role in this study. The other character, the lion, who is really a lioness, is is an imaginary mistress. Elements of the Tiberius' life that had come down to us through the source material lend credence to the notion that he very likely had a relationship of this type, a secretive relationship with a mistress. This character, Cletea is her name, is my alter ego. Like me, she has suffered a traumatic childhood and has had some psychological damage as a result. And through her relationship with Tiberius, she works out these problems and she grows. She finds herself able to assess personal relationships and grow beyond her psychological damage. Available through the publisher, which is an on-demand publisher, Trafford Publishing. Their website is www.trafford.com. They have an online bookstore, and you can also purchase it through Amazon.com. My friends, I hope you will seek out and read I, Livia, the Counterfeit Criminal, and let the truth about this much maligned woman speak for itself.